Hey there, I am Christie Ruffino, former broke single mom turned CEO of two six-figure businesses and best-selling author with 15 books. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, I was a hot mess. Yes, I did a lot of things right, but mostly I was throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what would stick. Fast forward past many failed attempts and a few incredible victories, I not only get to share what I've learned along the way, I get to bring together top influencers as they share their empowering stories, insider secrets, and valuable resources that can be used right now to step into your power. So, if you're an ambitious entrepreneur, or possibly one in the making, and you're looking to create a business and life that lights you up, well, then you're in the right place. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. I'm Christie Ruffino, the host of the show, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Samantha Potter. Welcome, Samantha.
Hi, thanks for having me, Christy. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. You are one of the authors that we featured in our most recent book, Genius Unleashed. I'm holding up a book right now for you to see it. It's
Yeah,
beautiful, and Samantha's story is incredible. We actually met before this. I don't even remember where we initially met, but we've kind of been hanging around in different
yeah.
events and crossing paths. We actually crossed paths in person recently,
Yes,
but
yes, on a cruise.
I know, it was great. Do you even remember when where we even first met?
I think I did one of your short little 7-day courses on
Okay.
writing,
Oh,
writing a nonfiction book. I think it was a 7-day course. It might have been shorter.
okay. Yeah, that would have been a while ago when I did the course on how to write your book. So, wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Well, and I didn't scare you away. You're still here.
No, no, I keep coming back.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I had the pleasure of working with you most recently to share your powerful story in the written word through our Genius Unleashed book, and you're incredible. And I've seen you evolve. I've seen your business change, and I really love where you're at right now. You've got a really great lane, and I feel that it's, at least from my perspective, I feel like it brings all of your wisdom and all of your genius gifts to the right place that you're making the biggest impact.
Well, thanks. I like to think I'm in the right place.
Well, as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's a journey,
It
right? It's
is.
a journey and we can't force it. But once it happens, it's just amazing. And I feel that you're kind of in that place. Maybe you've been in it for a while, but since we reconnected, I really see how you're just doing a really great job of aligning your message, supporting your clients. And I got to kind of see the behind the scenes version of Samantha by reading or learning about your story. So why don't you go ahead and share that with the audience? We don't want to keep them in suspense any longer.
So my story, the catalyst, it actually takes you through my own journey of transformation and the struggles and the process that I went through to go from kind of the ground state of being a senior paralegal in a law firm,
Mm.
specializing in estate planning and probate, and then during COVID getting hit with a stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis, going through all of the the treatment and all of the changes to my life and realizing I had more to contribute and I wasn't done. And then it wasn't quite as easy as that, right? In the long run, um, yes, I took end of life doula courses because I wanted to help people at end of life because I found myself in a position where I was staring at it. I wasn't there, but it was a real possibility for me. I wanted to be a support, and I had spent the last 20 plus years working in estate planning and probate, so I was comfortable talking about dying and death.
Yeah.
That was the first step. And that actually helped get me through some of the tough times of the treatment and the realization that there is no going back to the old way. You know, even though I survived it, everything changed.
Yeah.
And as I worked as a doula, more and more things kept coming to me. And, you know, you mentioned earlier that my business has evolved. I still do my end of life work for clients here locally, but I felt driven to expand out and help people through other life transitions that aren't quite as final as this one. You know, the one where you can make some choices and change your mind and play with all the possibilities. And then life, you know, kept throwing up some really interesting, I wouldn't say they were stoppers, but it was proof that the work I was doing worked, but it wasn't comfortable going through it. You know, I had to
Yes.
come to realizations that I was just as much as my clients learning to reinvent my life. And there are some things I didn't want to have to give up, but they were more of a identity based rather than a reality based.
Yeah.
And it hurt giving them up, but it was the best thing. I couldn't go on to be the new me until I faced those things. And, you know, I don't know how, you know, I don't expect everybody to have had the same journey I had, but in reading my story, my part of the book, I'm hoping that the clients or the clients, no, I'm hoping that the readers can kind of put themselves in my shoes, or at least I'm not asking them to imagine that they get cancer or imagine that they get involuntarily retired or imagine that, you know, any of those steps that the story uh, does, but apply them to their lives and see how, even looking backwards, you know, some life transitions are really easy or ones that you plan on and you still find yourself all in a kerfluffle. You know, think of somebody who's getting married for a second time and blending families. It's a joyful thing, but all of a sudden you have no idea what your life is going to look like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I
that's
mean, life is full of so many ups and downs, right?
yeah,
And with every up, there's plenty of downs, that's for sure. And because through these changes, we're entering places and going through things that we haven't gone through before.
right,
And so we're faced with a lot of unknowns, and unknowns can create fear, right? False evidence appearing real. And so we sometimes can play these stories out in our mind about what could happen as opposed to just trusting that, hey, I'm going to do the best I can to navigate this without making it worse than it actually is, right?
right. Well, and some people are at a place where, yes, fear is keeping them from stepping forward. They see an opportunity and they can go forward. However, some people are in a place where they feel something's off, things aren't working the way they should or the way they used to. And what they're not recognizing is that there is a threshold that's there for them to step through, right? Some
Mm.
sort of change, whether it's redefining your life after your kids are gone, right? That empty nest syndrome. Or maybe it's time for a career change. Everybody's goes through multiple of these throughout their life. Most of them don't stop you, but most people have one that's a big one that they need help getting through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that fear is one part of it. Part of it's just the unknown, is not being able to imagine.
Yeah. So now, okay, you've gone through all of this, and I'm sure there were so many things you did to learn, and and create tools and resources and wisdom to share with others. And as a transformational mindset coach, you're focused now on helping professionals navigate major changes. So talk a little bit more about that, because we get the major changes of being, getting a diagnosis. We get the major changes of having a relationship and or a job, and we get some of those. But when you're focused on supporting professionals, maybe share a case study of one of your clients so we can kind of have a better understanding of, what your genius zone is all about.
So when I'm dealing with professionals, there are basically two categories, and sometimes they have both of them. But either there is a life change that isn't meshing with their professional life. So all those things we already talked about is impacting their professional life.
Yep.
And an obvious one, you could say, relationship problems.
Yep.
You're worried or you're fighting, and it goes into
Or
your
a
work.
divorce, just something like
Right. It could be divorce, splitting up. It could be the loss of a parent. It could be any of those things. And so that's truly a life thing, but it's affecting your work. And then there are the ones that are really work or career oriented. So one of the, well, it's not really simple, but one of the examples is someone who is promoted to a job that, they were excellent. They were an excellent employee. They were an excellent manager, and now they're being promoted up. And not only are they being promoted, they've switched divisions. They've been relocated. So you've got somebody who's dealing with imposter syndrome because they not sure exactly how to do this new job, all these new responsibilities. And they've lost their main support group, their friends and things.
Yeah.
I mean, in this day and age, we can still stay connected, but it's not the same. It's not the same as having your buddy to have a beer with, at the end of the day, or, your friend to go, shopping with. So here's a person who it's a positive event, but it's thrown them off. And so they need some help overcoming the feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing. They really do. They're just not comfortable in the new position yet. And help building another support system, however that looks for them. So that's a really actually simple one. There are others where maybe there's a family business, and this is one I'm thinking of in particular, where it's time for in this case, it was the patriarch to step down from the business and, the son move in. But dad didn't really let go, so even though he's not officially the head of the business anymore, he's still trying to run the show. And so sometimes there are those difficulties. It could be somebody who has just reached a place where they're no longer comfortable in the organization they're at. Maybe there was a change in leadership. Maybe their values no longer mesh. But you've been there for so long, and this one I can speak to. I was at that firm for 25 years. I didn't know who I was without being the estate planning and probate paralegal, right? What now? And at my age, I knew that it wasn't reasonable to step into another law firm and get that same level of responsibility. Even though I had the credentials, I would still be the new kid on the block. And I knew I was going to retire in a few years anyway. It wouldn't be fair to the other law firm. And after 40 plus years in law, I was done.
You were ready for a change. All right. So you
But
gave
I
us
didn't
some.
want it. It had to be thrust upon me.
Well, I don't think most people want change. I mean,
Right.
even if it's good change, sometimes people resist change because it's different, it's new, and we kind of get comfortable. And so, thank you for sharing some examples. But my question for you is, we all have change, and I know sometimes time makes it better. But what do you do that can help people maybe get through that change better? Because, you know, change sometimes, we navigate it better as time goes on, but some people
Who
get
wants
stuck
to
and they
have to,
can't, and
yeah.
they can't make it happen. So can you talk to the audience a little bit about some ideas or some of your tools or wisdom? We like to share a couple nuggets of gold, right? So
Okay.
somebody out there right now is going through some sort of a major change. What kind of advice could you share with them?
So, um, the best way to kind of self-diagnose whether you need help or not, well, it's not the best way, but it's the fastest way I can think of right now, is to take advantage of my free offering and sign up for the 7 email series on how to kind of assess whether you're struggling with change and how much you're struggling with change. Uh, some of the magic sauce I use when I work with clients
Mhm.
is I've got some procedures that actually help bring up unconscious limiting decisions
Mhm.
that might be keeping you stuck.
Right.
Um, and when we bring it up to the conscious level and integrate your conscious and unconscious mind, and they're in agreement, we can dissolve those limiting decisions, and you can decide what your new decision is going to be around it. Um, but as a first step, if you're not ready to jump into, transformational coaching with me or anybody else, you know, get that free email series and it will help you kind of self-assess. Are you really stuck, or is this just something that you're thinking about, something that you're noodling over? Or maybe it'll give you the impetus to move forward. You don't need help. So,
Okay. So if somebody's already identified that they need help, they're stuck, they're going through this change, and they just feel like they can't get their bearings. What could you do? What could you share with them? What wisdom would you like to um, deliver to our audience today?
so I would say the first thing is to really get clear on what's important to you about this issue,
Mm,
whatever your issue is.
okay.
And in my coaching practice, I call it a values elicitation, but it's not like values as in honesty and, truth and things. It's what's important about this one issue. Make a list
Right.
and then organize it. What's the most important? What's the most important? What's the most important?
So let's say
And then
lose a job. Like, give me some examples of what would be on that list around losing a job.
losing a job. So what's important about, well, the person would have to decide, is the question, what is important about getting a new job, or what is important about me having lost a job?
Okay, right.
If it's me having lost a job, then it's, what is important to me about the identity of
Identity, yes. Yeah, all right, good.
that loss. And they
That's
could
one.
list anything, and it might not even make sense to somebody else looking at the list. I mean, it
Totally,
could be
totally.
money, it could be status, it could be uh, taking care of my family, it could be
The
uh,
friends that they had at the job and their
right, losing
and
friends and
okay,
those kinds of
okay.
things. It's different for everybody, and they might even throw something in that's a complete non sequitur. Uh, and so then a coach looking over that list would go, why is that important? Tell me more about it. And so, yeah, I would say make your list of what's important about your
Okay.
issue. And then for every 1 or 2 word response, it's not a sentence, it's a one or
Yeah.
two word response. For every one of those, write out and what's important about that
Like,
and
why is
about
that
them.
important? Yeah, I
And
like that.
answer it with at least 3 to 7 times, right?
Okay.
What's important about that? And what else? And what else? And what else? And just looking through that will help clarify what the issues really are. Is it a
Mm.
fear? Is it you know, feeling like you're going to be judged? Is it worrying about, well, judged or what other people think? Is it
Mhm.
financial? Is it, you know, is it something really tangible that you can do something right away? Or is it some unconscious thing that's been blocking you from stepping
Right.
into a new role
Yeah.
or a new
Yeah.
identity?
This is good. So I know I've shared this a couple times, not a lot, but about 2 years ago, I was the victim of a scam and I lost $100,000. And that sent me in a tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all of these horrible stories playing out in my brain from being homeless to people thinking I was stupid, like, all of these things. And I actually had a good friend of mine do this kind of with me. And we talked about everything every story I was telling myself about how terrible this thing was. And we broke it down. And she basically was able to help me squash every one of those things, right? Like I thought I was creating these horrible stories, but then she's very analytical. And so she kind of just basically, well, you're never going to be living in your car. You always have enough people that will help you. Like we went through every single one of those things. And then it really helped me just be so much more comfortable with the process, with the life that I was living at that moment, because up until
Right.
that point, I wasn't sleeping. I could barely work. I felt if I showed up at work, I was not showing up well because of all these stories that were playing in my head. Even though I was trying to fake it, it was still there. But I will
Yeah.
tell you what you just shared. I mean, she doesn't even, this is not even her business, but she's just very logical like this. And we broke everything down. And I will tell you, it was huge for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, in my coaching, then I take that's just the start.
Yeah.
That's the information I need to find out where to dig deeper and what needs to be released and what needs to be reset and redefined.
Yeah.
But yes, you were lucky to have such a wise friend. And I, a mentor of mine tells a story about how when she was going through divorce, you know, the she was convinced that she was going to be living in a box on a sidewalk, you know.
Yeah.
And she says it wasn't until she got okay with the idea, it wasn't like she was planning on it, that she could move beyond it. You know, she had to
Right.
identify it, dig into it, acknowledge it, and
Yep.
okay, if that's what it takes, I'll be healthier than in this situation.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well, Samantha, this was great. Thanks for sharing some of these insights with our audience. And you have a pretty cool resource that you want to share.
yeah.
So, you want to talk about what that is?
So it's a 7-day email series with a an attached journal that you can do some reflections on with the emails, that just kind of helps you reclaim yourself if you think you're in this in between state or if you're struggling to make a change. Come back to your own authentic self, even if it's a new self. Um, and it's a good place to start. You don't, you know, there's no obligation. There's, you know, you don't have to make a call with me, but uh, it's a place to kind of get your head straight and see where you're really at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been really great. If anybody wants to go ahead and get on that email series and grab Samantha's journal, the links are in the show notes below. And what that's going
Mhm.
to do is that's going to take you to our gift vault where you're going to have access to her free resource as well as free resources from the other experts that are in this book, as well as guests that we've had on our show for the last 3 or 4 years. Now, there may be some links from the people from 3 or 4 years ago that may not be working anymore, but I will tell you, Samantha's is going to be working for a little while, at
Yeah.
least for the next few months. So make sure you grab that while it's still there, because I know we can't always. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And you may be going in a season in your life right now where everything is just, roses and butterflies, but then tomorrow you could wake up and who knows, it could be crazy town. And so go ahead and connect with Samantha and get her free resource. And I know if you reach out to her, I'm sure she would love to sign an autographed copy of the book and ship it right to you because
I would do that.
yeah, she's got an inventory of books that she loves to send to people that read her story and are just loving what she's all about. So I want to thank everybody. And most importantly, I want to thank you today, Samantha, for being on the show.
Oh, thank you, Christie. That was an honor. And, I love your show.
Yeah, I have one final question. I don't know, we didn't prep on this, but if you were to be able to pick one superhero that you could be, who would it be and why?
It's
Ding,
not
ding.
exactly a superhero, but it's superhero related.
Okay.
I love the wisdom and the dry, snarky humor of what's his name, Albert or Alfred, Batman's.
Oh, Alfred. Yeah. His butler.
Alfred, his butler. I was
Alfred the
going to say
butler. Yeah.
Major Domo. Yeah, I love. He's calm, but he's ready for anything, and he's got kind of a dry sense of humor, and he's just there always.
Always. He's the one that takes care of the superhero, right?
Right.
I love that.
And nothing phases him.
Yeah.
Nothing phases
Awesome.
him.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. That really says a lot about who you are. So I love that. Great response.
Now I'm going to have to stop and think about that. Trick question.
Well, you don't want to be the superhero in the spotlight. You want to be the person behind the scenes, making sure the superhero is successful and is out saving the world. You are a superhero equipper.
That's true. That's my job.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for once again supporting the Mastery Unleashed podcast. Please go to whatever platform you listen and show us some love. And especially if you are on Apple Podcasts, go there and leave us a review. Things have gotten a little challenging over the last 2 years. They've made some changes, but you can find it. I know you can, especially if you have an Apple device. Go on there and share some honest feedback about our show so we can continue to get amazing guests like Samantha to share with our audience. So thanks, everybody. And once again, thanks, Samantha.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Mastery Unleashed podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams by turning their mess into their greatest message and following their purpose to help the people who need their newfound wisdom and resources. To learn more, visit masteryunleashedpodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to this show.